Cyberpunk 2077 can easily be labeled as one of the highlights of E3 2018. The amount of hype for this game is really quite impressive, considering its first trailer came out in January of 2013, 2 years before The Witcher 3 even released. With a bare-bones trailer from 2013 and the recently released more action-packed trailer from 2018, the 5-year difference does bring up a very relevant question. Can CD Projekt Red deliver amid the hype? I believe it can. CD Projekt Red released The Witcher 3 in 2015, and it is arguably one of the most well-developed games in history, with an overwhelmingly positive review score out of 142,000 reviews on Steam. The Witcher 3's success can be attributed to several factors: a fantastic storyline, a unique and interesting world, great combat mechanics, and gamer-focused communication and developer feedback, to name a few. During a time that was quickly becoming dominated by multiplayer-focused games, The Witcher 3 supplied the gaming community with a creative and fascinating open-world environment that intermingled reality and mythos into an immersive single-player campaign not seen in quite a long time. To take it a step further, in a world where DLC usually means paying for content that should have been in the game on initial release, CD Projekt Red raised the bar by providing meaningful, full-on expansions in Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine. These 2 DLCs gave players loads of new content and a deeper experience of the game, with entirely new regions, gear and foes, along with several pieces of free content that included new quests, weapons, and other accessories. With over 40 hours of estimated gameplay between the 2 DLCs, I don't believe many people, if any, felt cheated in any sense. That's not to say that it didn't have bugs and issues. A game as large and detailed as The Witcher 3, catering to consoles and PCs alike, was bound to have them. Yet with such a polished game and an openness from the developers, the community as a majority was willing to look past those few things to see the bigger picture. All things considered, The Witcher 3 stands out among the crowd, and the then relatively small developer CD Projekt Red with it. The success of The Witcher 3 can only build on the hype of Cyberpunk 2077. The aspects that we see in The Witcher 3 that made it such a great game, we can conservatively expect in Cyberpunk. Considering the futuristic setting and the sheer size of Night City, both tall and wide, a unique, immersive, and rich world is fairly easy to accomplish. From what we've seen in both trailers, the extensive use of modular and biotech upgrades can only lend to some of the great combat mechanics in both melee and with weapons. Combine these aspects and you have the potential to generate an amazingly narrative story in directions we can only speculate, as we haven't gotten much reference of Cyberpunk's story outside of Night City in which it takes place, and your character, V, who's simply labeled as a hired gun. The Witcher 3's third-person mode also lent to its success, as it was very well laid out in terms of the UI and the combat truly fit the bill. So it came as a surprise to many that Cyberpunk 2077 will only be in first-person mode, a first for the developer. While there is some discontent among a small group of gamers on this decision, to me it makes sense for this game to be in first person. Unlike Witcher 3, Cyberpunk isn't going to be a game of strategic spells and swordplay. Cyberpunk is, on the forefront, a role-playing shooter, and as such fits most comfortably into the first person mode. Now I will say this, I do think that Cyberpunk as a shooter would fit well into the over-the-shoulder third-person mode like The Division, and it has some great gunplay mechanics that I think could work in Cyberpunk. And it's also entirely possible that CD Projekt researched this, maybe played around with it, and then just decided it wouldn't work. Whatever the reasoning, CD Projekt decidedly broke out of their very comfy, perfectly working gameplay point of view to bring about a good old-fashioned first-person genre game. That does say a lot about the developer in general. It's so easy in today's gaming world to stick with one style that's been immensely successful for you. And despite CD Projekt never actually stating so, it also made sense in the general public's eye that Cyberpunk was going to be third person, since every Witcher game has been. To bring about a new POV is a bold move, but one that I think will easily pay off once we get a glimpse of actual gameplay. It's been confirmed post E3 that Cyberpunk 2077 will not have a peaceful walkthrough, with an understanding that Night City is one of the most crime-ridden, violent, and despairing places on the planet. It goes without saying that the vast majority of players would choose to stay true to the shoot-'em-up style of gameplay, myself included. But there are some who would no doubt like to try and go the peaceful route as much as possible. And ideally, I prefer to have the option to go peaceful if I wanted to. There are situations in about every game where it could save a member of my team, it could open up new options with a certain faction in game, or sometimes it just creates a sense of justice and moral writing that gives you just a bit more tie-in to your character. My sticking point in this subject is only dependent on how often we have the chance for a peaceful situation. Knowing that there will be blood and violence in most situations, how often can we bring an intense situation down a few levels through conversation or negotiation rather than bullets? Assuming we will have the same dialogue system as in Witcher 3, will we have a skill tree that will support other options via conversation to de-escalate in crucial times? Considering our hired gun status, we can only assume that our character will not be under the impression to kill every single person on sight. There will be certain people he or she is tied to and opportunities that will hopefully pop up where we can choose the moral high ground to save a life and to go against orders and take our own path. I think that a small part of Cyberpunk's success will derive from this. Being able to freely choose between violence or peace lends to the role play of any game and gives the player the choice to go either way, especially in the world of Cyberpunk, where everything is not even close to being just black and white in Night City. If everything we do via conversation or otherwise is always a violent choice, you're not really playing a character you've helped create, and it breaks a sense of immersion and limits the ability of the open world to take hold and make an interesting narrative story. This last point is much deeper than our previous points, and for those of the more philosophical types, this one's for you. Cyberpunk 2077 will feature V, your main character. It's been confirmed that in an almost Elder Scrolls kind of way, you can pick your gender, your class, a relative faction, accessories, and a host of other features that make V as much a part of you as you want to. While we've been able to use different unlocked armor sets and clothes in Witcher 3 and the other characters in the Witcher series, Cyberpunk will undoubtedly take it to another level with their customization. There's even been confirmation via a couple of articles online that talk about how certain clothes can affect your reputation with other factions, something that's gone a step further for CD Projekt into making this open world game a lot deeper and immersive than we previously expected. Moving on into the deeper part of the poll, an overarching theme in Cyberpunk 2077 will be on the issue of transhumanism, which is about the augmentations of the human body to make it faster, stronger, and more efficient. In this world, you'll see the human body in all stages of augmentation, from a simple robotic arm, so a person can use both hands again, to some people who can barely be labeled as human due to the augmentations added. With this prominent theme of augmentation, it's safe to assume we can augment ourselves as well, and therein lies one of the bigger things I think we'll encounter throughout Cyberpunk. At what point of augmenting your body do you lose yourself as a person? If the literal meat of your body is replaced by something that can be quickly repaired, swapped out, or upgraded at any time, do you lose that bodily connection? This intensive theme, I think, will be one of the biggest aspects of Cyberpunk that will lend to its success. The stand you take on the issue in-game will no doubt drastically shape the narrative in your campaign, and can have lasting effects on the in-game world and how its people both view and treat you. It's a really interesting concept that I'm truly excited to explore in Cyberpunk, and one that'll definitely raise some eyebrows and hopefully get people thinking on other significant issues. In all, with what little information we have to go on as of now and no official gameplay to watch, I do not see any reason at all why Cyberpunk will remotely fail. 5 years of hype in just 2 trailers, and with the developer starting to release more and more information, sure there might be some things that I'd be hesitant towards, but they are easily drowned out in Cyberpunk's potential. The best part is that while we don't have a release date, CD Projekt Red is not under any restrictions or release date pressures, as they aren't owned by a mega corporation to push them to a quickie release. They'll work on this until it's complete and ready to release in full, with as few bugs as possible, which is great news for gamers across all platforms. I hope you enjoyed this video on Cyberpunk 2077. Let me know your thoughts, concerns, or otherwise for the game in the comments section down below. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with my videos. This is Havoc, and I'm out of here.